Our words, they're so much more powerful than we often think. They don't just hang in the air for a second and disappear. They're actually a window straight into our hearts. And when pride starts to take root in there, you can hear it. Our words get sharp, defensive. So today, let's talk about how we can trade that snark for some real, genuine sincerity.
This really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's so tempting to think, hey, I'm right about this, I have the correct theology, and believe that gives us a license to say it however we want. But the moment we start using truth as a weapon, we've crossed a really dangerous line, a line that moves us from discernment right into sin. So what is this posture? Well, the Bible actually has a very specific name for it, the scoffer. And here's the tricky part, it's a sin that can hide behind this mask of zeal. It can use all the right words, all the right verses, but the heart behind them is just wrong.
When we dig into the original language, it gets even clearer. The Hebrew word is lus. And what's so telling is that this doesn't describe an accidental slip of the tongue, a harsh word you didn't mean to say. No, this is a deliberate posture. It's an attitude of mockery and scorn toward things that should actually make us humble.
How direct is that? Scripture links this kind of speech not with knowledge or being correct, but with arrogant pride. So the problem with the scoffer isn't that they're misinformed, it's that they are proud and, this is key, they are totally resistant to any kind of correction.
Okay, so let's really break this down. What's the difference between true, godly zeal and this false zeal that comes from a scoffer's pride? Well, you can see it laid out right here. Look at the motivation, the tone, and the ultimate goal. True zeal is always rooted in love. Its goal is to restore, to build up. But a scoffer's pride? Nah, that's driven by a deep need to be right, which leads to a sarcastic tone and a goal of just humiliating the other person.
This is such a perfect picture of what's happening on the inside. A scoffer's heart becomes like dry, sun-baked soil. It's hard, it's cracked. So when the water of truth comes, what happens? It just rolls right off the surface. It can't sink in, there's no softening, and because of that, there's no growth. So, that brings us to the big question, right? Why? Why do we fall into this pattern? Let's get underneath the surface and explore what's really going on in the heart.
And the answer is almost never as simple as, oh, I just wanted to be cruel. It's rarely about that. The real roots of sarcasm and snark, well, they run much, much deeper.
It really boils down to pride, fear, and insecurity. But here's the thing, they all share the same root. They grow from a heart that has stopped trusting God to be its defender. Think about it. Pride is that desperate need to protect our own rightness. Fear is that anxiety that will be exposed as wrong or weak. And sarcasm becomes the shield we throw up to keep everybody at a safe distance. Whenever we feel that burning need to win an argument, what we're really doing is taking our reputation into our own hands.
So what's the remedy? How do we get out of this trap? Well, the only lasting answer is found when we look at Jesus. He was the only one who ever had the right to condemn, the right to mock, yet when they hurled insults at him, he refused to retaliate.
And this is the ultimate beautiful contrast. The very one who was scorned by us now extends grace to us. When you really let that sink in, when you rest in that reality, it frees you from that frantic need to win every argument. The gospel offers a kind of peace that completely surpasses that fleeting satisfaction of just being right. Okay, so this brings us to the really practical stuff. How do we actually begin to change? How do we start reclaiming our tongues for grace and mercy? Here are 5 practical guards we can put around our hearts. First, stay low. This just means actively remembering our own constant need for grace. It's a whole lot easier to extend grace when you're aware of how much you've received. Second, stay close. We have to surround ourselves with humble people who challenge us, not just an echo chamber that fuels our pride. Third, stay soft. This means letting Scripture convict us first before we ever try to use it to correct someone else. Fourth, and this is a big one for our digital age, stay slow. Just pause. Take a breath before you speak, before you post. And finally, number 5, stay submitted. This is a daily, moment-by-moment choice to yield our reactions to Christ's Spirit rather than our own.
And for those moments, when you're right there in the heat of it, here's a quick gut check. Before you speak, before you hit send, ask yourself these 3 things. 1. Am I moved by compassion or competition? 2. Am I aiming for restoration or just to protect my own reputation? And 3. Will this sound like Christ when other people hear it? Man, these questions can stop a prideful comment dead in its tracks and, over time, actually help retrain our reflexes.
Now let's be honest, this whole transformation process isn't always easy.
It's a lot like a gardener pruning a vine. God often has to come in and cut away the overgrowth of pride and sarcasm in our lives. And that may feel like a loss at first, but that pruning is absolutely necessary. It's what makes room for the real fruit of the Spirit, gentleness, peace, self-control, to finally grow.
And this is the ultimate goal, isn't it? It's not just to stop being sarcastic. It's for our words, our very tongues, to become instruments of God's grace and mercy in the world.
This verse from Proverbs just captures the whole principle perfectly. It's a clear choice. God opposes the proud. He scorns the scorners, but to the humble, he gives grace. Our posture, our attitude, literally determines what we receive from him.
So let's end with this one thought to carry with us. Our words are never neutral. They are always an act of worship, and they always reveal what our hearts truly treasure. So the question for each of us is this: what will your words worship this week? Your own pride or the God of grace?